Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a television anchor, entrepreneur, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. What drives me most is storytelling and providing a sense of community for my audience. I am most proud of being a mother of three. I have boy-girl twins and a younger son. I am thrilled to be part of 180 Elevate's series dedicated to mothers. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a supportive community for mothers to feel empowered to take on daily challenges and truly make an impact in our world. 180 Elevate is a social networking platform to connect, grow, and give with world-class leaders and influencers. We dedicate the month of May to mothers. In its honor, we present to you conscious mom leaders, influential leaders who have struck a beautiful rhythm between navigating their career success and figuring out conscious parenting. Let's hear how Himali Vyas did it. She is a NASA leader and a former founder of Warehouse Exchange and Allogistics International.
Everybody, welcome to this episode of Elements to Elevate by 180 Elevate. Each month, we will laser focus and dig deeper into an area of life which we truly believe is an element to uplift our perspectives and humanity. From insights to action, the path to elevate your mind, body, and soul starts here. In today's episode about conscious mom leaders, our guest is Himali Vyas, a program leader at NASA. Amongst her upcoming projects, she will serve on the board of the team charged with recovering samples from Mars after the successful rover landing in February. Welcome, Himali.
Hi, Rupam. How are you?
Great. Thank you for being on our show. So, take us on your journey from childhood to early career to this mentor you are now so many people look up to. Our audience would love to hear about your key learnings and takeaways in each phase of your journey.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. So my journey started in Mumbai, India. I grew up there. My parents and, of course, my two brothers. Um, I was there till 11th grade, and I was an introvert, focused on math and science, very obedient, follow the rules, that kind of a person, shy. My mom would have to remind me and nudge me to say hello because she was an extrovert. But in any case, I was there till 11th, and then I moved to US after that. And from there, getting good in math and science, every typical Indian parent wants their daughter to be a doctor. And so they insisted I go into medicine. I tried out as a med student for a few months, undergrad, and I'm like, this is not for me. Moved towards engineering and computer science right after that. And from there, as I was doing my undergrad, I also worked at JPL, NASA JPL, as a part-time software engineer. Then I graduated, got married, and also transitioned to a full-time job at NASA JPL as a software engineer. I realized that just doing software engineering wasn't good enough for me. It was too binding into one dimension. I needed a wider perspective of things. So I chose to do my master's in electrical engineering at USC Viterbi and realized that I really needed to go into a much more wider role of what's called systems engineering, which is really a technical project management without authority. That's one of the most beautiful definition one of my mentors gave me. If you can influence someone without authority, that's the best role that you can have. And so I'm passionate with that particular role because you can do a lot of bigger things and you don't need an authority, or you shouldn't be thinking that you have an authority. And it's been a really good influencing role. So I worked there, moved to aerospace and defense at TRW, came back to JPL, worked on some Mars network projects where we were developing communication navigation satellites for Mars. And then a headhunter found me and I had an opportunity to work at a startup, which was, I think, one of my most amazing experiences. It was at Surf Technologies. They built GPS for our cell phones early 2000s. So the fact that we have GPS has a lot of credit to go to Surf Technologies. exposed me to a lot of business and marketing and operations and customers. It was just a wonderful journey over there. Then at some point, my kids were in middle school. I needed to focus as a mom. I came back to JPL, which was again I love JPL. It's the amazing technologies that developed to provide a good work-life balance over there. And so that is where I've been since then. Along the route, we've done some businesses together between my husband and I, software-based solutions for logistics. We owned a hotel at one point, distant operations, very interesting experience. I don't think I'll do that again. And then we also actually had a real estate development project on an estate project. That was also another interesting experience that went through. And just recently, we co-founded a ops chain, which is again a warehouse management solutions, where we utilize the warehouses. So co-founder and board member of that company. So that's kind of my journey in short.
Wow, absolutely very diverse and into all different segments, which is fabulous. You know, women, multitasking, doing it all. The idea that the problem isn't the kids, but our own unconsciousness as parents, and where the focus is always on the parents rather than the kids' behavior. So different than what we grew up with, right? So, are there any stories you remember from the early days of your parenthood that gave you that aha moment that you want to share?
An aha moment in terms of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think my aha moment with parenting was the first thing my kids was born. There's something about the maternal instinct, um, and for me that suddenly became my number one priority, focusing on the kids. Um, I don't know. It was just something about that. I am responsible not just raising my kids, but this is the next generation of the society that I'm going to leave behind. And so whatever I could do to help build that was something very important. I came across someone who kind of shared a beautiful quote with me that said, kids aren't alone to you. Don't assume you own them. And that was really my true aha moment where I realized that I'm really here to help bring their potential and not dictate my expectations out.
That's beautiful. It's kind of like we want them to be better version of themselves rather than projecting what we would like them to be. Very well said, Himali. Love it. So we all live in a world of deadlines, you know, multitasking, doing everything, and we're always rushed where we feel like we don't have the time to be fully present. So what were the few strategies that you used in your parenting to give the kids more quality attention while really focusing on what truly matters?
Few of the things that we did. First, a partnership with the spouse is very important. How you balance that. Even though we had a lot of support around us, I truly believe that both parents still should be there daily. So we took a lot of turns. He would pick up, I would drop off, or whatever we would be there. So we're constantly present with them those moments. But the other key one was kitchen counter, right? Being at the kitchen counter, whether we're doing their homework or whatever, gives an opportunity to talk things out and be present over there. Reduce a lot of gadgets and electronics. Actually, truly speaking, we did not have any cable TV until middle school for our kids. And I know my kids would rant, "Oh my God, we're watching Arthur and Clifford Big Red Dog until eighth grade." But it gave us a chance to bond on those things, and it just mattered a lot to reduce that influence. I don't think we could do no cell phones or anything anymore. It worked then, but we need to find ways to limit that and figure out how we spend time together, whether we're discussing certain topics or whether just kind of exploring life and sharing our experiences.
Very true. And so it was kind of like a, activity that you would do together or a tradition that you think would enhance your family time together. So, you probably grew up with some traditions. Did you apply any of those with your kids growing up?
Yes, absolutely. We did grow up with the traditions, and culturally, we have tons of traditions. Um, the first thing I did, especially when they were young, was go to a cultural, Sunday schools for them, expose them to whatever they had over there. But over time, when it came down to middle school, I felt like I needed to change the traditions, leave the values, but change the traditions. So it transitioned from Sunday schools to not going there, but still reminding them of those values, but then opening up a lot of conversations with different topics for discussions, whether they're cultural, whether they're political, whether there are some humanity or volunteering issues or whatever. So we had a lot of those discussions where everybody was free to speak their mind and their thoughts. And we started that at a very early age so that they could develop their own thoughts.
Very well said. I was talking to someone this morning on the same topic, and I said, I know my kids will make mistakes, but I want to be the first person they come to and tell them, and tell me what they did, so I can help them navigate. So that trust is very important. I think that bond is very precious. So for the new parents out there, if you could sit down and say, what's a life hack or a simple advice, what would be on the top of your list?
I would say definitely remind yourself that their children belong to you. That would be the biggest one. I think another advice would be let them explore. A lot of times we as parents operate from fear, and so there are times that you have to trust them, let them explore. Yes, there's a time phase to like think about elementary, middle school where you need to guide them and tell them what to do. But when they come to high school, that's a phase where you slowly let your students go, see how they make the decisions, guide them. So when they come to college, you can set them free where they will be making the decisions. You just have to give them a framework, a value system. Okay, these three, four values you're not going to move away from, but you decide. Help them start making their own decisions when they're young. Those are all key things that we will have a sense of humor. In our case, we never had a parent-child boundaries. We were always at the same level field. And so we roast each other quite often. My son and my daughter would it was something, it was nothing personal. And to take advice from them. Sometimes they really have really good advice to give you as they grow up. So be open to that. It
Yeah.
just becomes a nice friendship over time.
Well said again. Our kids are our biggest teachers if you really listen to what they have to say. I mean, we're more conditioned than they are. It reminds me of Khalil Gibran, where he said, your kids are your life's longing for itself. So on that note, balancing work and home, how did you integrate the two? How did you get that balance between your work life and your home life?
Um, Kind of focusing what your vision is first and then prioritizing that. Again, I think for me, focusing on the kids was very important with the intent that they need to create their own life and the next generation. But then also having my career growth was also important. So you need to kind of I had a vision goal that I would go towards that was always in my mind. But on a daily basis, I would prioritize it to two or three things. Obviously, kids being number one for me always, and then trying to work towards the work-life balance. Working with your employers, saying, "Hey, can I telecommute, or can I leave early and come in early?" Those are some of the ways that I was able to balance that out and keeping that in mind. And then we don't necessarily have a 9 to 5 job, so there are times that you balance your kids during the day, but then you can catch up in the evening for whatever you left off from your work. So it's just kind of constant juggling and figuring out those priorities on a daily basis.
And, being a leader in your industry, what really helps when you're a mom is your empathy really goes up for your fellow workers. So I think it really helped you being a leader as well in your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. You become a good listener. You actually reach out to integrate. You're not just solo, independent, trying to impose your thoughts. I think the listening was a key aspect of me, and understanding what it is saying, because if you want to influence, you really got to listen and you really got to integrate and bring everyone together. I think that's
Absolutely. I mean, in my own practice, my compassion for people with younger kids totally went up over the roof because I was like, wow. Like my biggest compassion was with people with young kids trying to balance the two. And I love in one of your interviews, you said you realize how fortunate you were that your kids were young adults because that does make a huge difference. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes, in today's time, I'm sure the parents are suffering. I won't say suffering, but it has been a hard balance for them.
It
And
definitely is a new integration way of being. But happy Mother's Day to you, and thank you so much for being here.
happy Mother's Day to you too, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a great segment with Himali. I am so amazed at her background as a leader at NASA. You don't hear a lot about women leaders in such an amazing organization like NASA. And so it was our pleasure and honor to interview with her. But one of the things I loved about the conversation was what she was really talking about, raising not just your own kids, but the future generation that is going to be the leaders of the society. So she's almost putting the accountability and the onus of having a great next generation, a wonderful society in the future on her shoulders and on every parent's shoulders. So we have a fantastic world to look forward to. And it actually resonated well as a new mom of twins is, you know, it's not just about being a good present mom and teaching them the right things, but raising them to be conscious members of society.
Absolutely, Nikki, you nailed it. And that's where conscious parenting really comes in, where you absolutely want to leave the world a better place than you came in. And that's not just ethical and moral responsibility, but there's no other way to do it, where you would want to see your kids and you say, wow, I wish I knew that when I was their age, or I wish I knew that when I was growing up, because look at where we are now. So that was very beautiful, and her humility absolutely blew me away, because she just was so open and so beautiful in her relationship with her kids who are young adults, which can be a challenging sometimes.
And, you know, being present and actively participating in different activities to spend quality time. When we talk about the concept of work-life balance, you know, it's not about quantity of time you're spending, but actually the quality and segmenting your day or segmenting that time into different activities, which can build character and resilience for your kids is important. And so that was a good learning to understand how you really you know, can achieve good work-life balance and not have the mom guilt of being a working professional, but really truly connect with your kids in the long run.
And not just mom guilt, I guess even a child guilt, because she said, you know, there are no mistakes, there's only experiences, and you learn, you grow, you evolve together as a family, you come and you discuss what your journey is, and be there for each other. Isn't that what it's all about?
And that is what it's all about. So thank you, Himali, for joining us today, and happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day.
Coming up next, we have a masterclass on how to get highly organized by Carrie Collins, who founded HOW, where she will teach you how to find time by thinking strategically about productivity, performance, and leadership progression. She's a consummate connector of ideas and individuals with a keen ability to facilitate conversations and foster mutually beneficial partnerships. Carrie crafts order from chaos and creates inspired and inventive ways to find time. Welcome, Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Collins, founder and chief executive organizer of HOW, Highly Organized Woman. And today we're going to learn how to find time. You're going to learn how to find time by thinking strategically about productivity. The strategies that I'm going to share with you today will help amplify any tool, system, or process, all with the goal of increasing productivity and finding time. As we move into a largely hybrid workforce, I'm going to share 5 habits, which are ways to think about productivity. They will boost anything that you're working on, no matter where you're working on it, whether it's a digital tool, a paper tool, an internal process, or one that you've devised yourself. No matter where you're working, we're going to increase your productivity. The first habit is to take note. And it's the most important, and it's the one that we'll spend probably the most time on. So why take note? We simply have too much going on to try to remember everything. And how do we do this? As soon as you think, hear, read a task, activity, event, write it down right away. And it doesn't matter where you write it down, whether a Post-it note, a notebook, a digital to-do list, your hand. I don't recommend that, but whatever works. I've been known to text myself a note. I've been known to write an email to remind myself to write a note. We just simply have too much going on to try to waste time trying to remember things that we were going to do. So no matter how you write down information, ultimately they should migrate to a to-do list. If you are one of those people who have sticky notes creating a work of abstract art on your desk or around your computer monitor, or if you're someone who has random pieces of paper floating around your desk, then this might be beneficial for you. I recommend creating a spreadsheet with the following columns: task, due date, responsible party, must do, and would like to do. And you start by transferring all of those pieces of information from the scraps of paper, the Post-it notes, into the spreadsheet. If there's no due date, make one up. Find one that seems reasonable and include it in the spreadsheet. If you are the only person responsible for all these tasks, then you can delete that column. But I suspect that either you do or you will at some point have people reporting to you who will owe you reports and analyses and documents, and you want to include those on this list as well. Then you want to sort by due date, and then by must do and would like to do. And once you've gone through this activity, you have a comprehensive list of prioritized tasks that will create a roadmap to productivity as soon as you put it into a to-do list. Think of it like a GPS for your life. It will give you direction to get you back on track if you get lost. Now that you have a to-do list, I'd like to talk a little bit about a to-do list practice. In particular, the calendar management versus a to-do list strategy. You want to distinguish between these two. I worked with a young woman who would block off time on her calendar and assign certain projects to it: social media, research, writing, blogging, etc. But if she had other projects or emergencies crop up, she became incredibly anxious that she wasn't working on the assigned task in her time block. Instead, we switched her to including only those events, meetings, or activities or appointments that have a specific time frame, a definitive beginning and a definitive end time. All those tasks go on her calendar. Everything else goes on her to-do list. So while blocking off time on your calendar is an excellent way to strategize, brainstorm, set aside personal time, but instead of ascribing a specific task or project to it, simply block it off as thinking time and keep all of your tasks on your to-do list. You can also consider a convention to keep your to-do list organized. I like to use activity, then responsible party, then due date. So for example, annual report due from Sally by this due date. If you include as many activities or tasks on your to-do list with this convention, it will be easier to quickly review and see what you have due. Recurring reminders amplify the power of any to-do list. You can use them for anything from a quarterly reminder to update your LinkedIn bio and your resume, to a weekly reminder to craft an agenda for a standing meeting with your boss. Let's say business development is part of your role and you have it on your calendar from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And then a giant emergency blows up at 1:55 on Tuesday, and you spend the rest of the afternoon on that emergency. What happens on Wednesday when you wake up? Your calendar, whether you flip a physical page or the digital calendar shows itself to be faded, you may very well forget that you had business development scheduled on Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. Instead of putting it on your calendar, because it doesn't have a specific beginning and end date, set a recurring reminder on your digital to-do list to do prospect work on Tuesdays. It doesn't matter when you do it. It doesn't matter for how long you do it, just that you get to it at some point on Tuesday. If you can't get to it because those emergencies do keep happening, when you wake up on Wednesday, it will be on your to-do list and it will show up as overdue. You won't forget about it because it will still be there, usually in red. My favorite apps and tricks and tools for this strategy are as follows. For a digital to-do list app, I love Todoist. At Todoist.com, you can use it on your desktop. You can download the app to your phone, your tablet, and all of it syncs together. You can create different lists for different aspects of your life. You can color code those lists and easily set recurring reminders. If you are someone who loves pen and paper, by all means, continue using your pen and paper. But instead of spending time either retranscribing or typing up notes, consider using one of these apps. There's an app called Scanner Mini, and for about $4 or $5, you can download it, use the camera on your phone to snap a picture of whatever handwritten notes you have, and then it will create a digital version, whether a JPEG or a PDF, and you can email it, share it, download it, whatever you'd like. For those of you who are Apple phone users, the new iOS Notes has a built-in scanner as well. So if this is something you want to try, you can start there. And then if you really like it and the note scanner isn't quite up to par, you can always download the Scanner Mini app. And finally, for those of you who really just love writing but want to be a little bit more eco-friendly, there's something called the Rocketbook. And a Rocketbook allows you to write notes on a notebook and then use their app to take a picture of those notes. And you can assign several digital destinations to where your document is going. And once you snap it with the app, then it sends it automatically to email, Dropbox, Google Drive, etc. When you're finished with your handwritten notes, having scanned them, you use water and you wipe it clean. It's a really great, sustainable way to continue to write notes, but have an easy way of recording them. The next habit is to look ahead. With so much going on, it's really easy to be caught off guard by tasks, meetings, appointments, even if they've been on our calendars for weeks and weeks. This is a great solution if you're someone who waits until the last minute. So how do we do this? Start by taking 10 minutes at the end of each day, whether that's the work day or the chronological day, to review what's on tap for the next 1 to 3 days. And there's no magic in 1 to 3. Maybe you want to just look at one day at a time, or you want to look an entire week ahead. Whatever works for you, make sure you're looking at your calendar, you're looking at your to-do list, and see what items, tasks, etc., that you might need to work on to be prepared for the next day. I extend this on Fridays. I look 1 to 3 weeks ahead, or whatever day ends your week, if you work Tuesday through Saturday, for example, and see what's coming up over those next few weeks. In particular, are there family obligations I need to be aware of? Are there teaching obligations that I need to be aware of? What things are coming up that I need to be fully prepared to tackle? This is a really soothing ritual that will bolster your confidence and bring you a sense of calm. For tools, I really like a recurring reminder on my digital to-do list until you get this ingrained in your daily life. You can also create a recurring calendar appointment. Now, it doesn't have a definitive start and a definitive end time, but until it becomes part of your daily routine, consider using that and adding it onto your calendar. You can always set an alarm on your phone and set that to recur as well. Any of these ways will help you stop, take a break, and look ahead 1 to 3 days. The next habit involves prep work. So you do yourself no favors if you look ahead a few days or a few weeks, but you don't plan or prepare for it. You want to make sure you've got your points, your counterpoints, your presentation, your notes ready. And this is a great solution for people who tend to drop the ball on things, tend to wait till the last minute, or really get distracted. So how do you do this? One of the easiest ways to develop this habit is to actually schedule prep time. The duration and the amount of time that you spend are usually completely within your control. And then use the time as it was intended and get prepared. The more you schedule and use this prep time, the more you will come to realize how valuable it is. I know a lot of people schedule prep time, and then when that time rolls around, they find themselves going, I have a free hour, I have an extra hour, and I'm going to do things that I need to catch up. Try to discipline yourself to use that prep time for the activity or the analysis that you need to do to get as prepared as possible. I talked with a chief revenue officer at a private company in LA, and he told me this was eye-opening for him. He often met with his team for weekly meetings without really engaging in prep time, and found that once he did this, the meetings would be not only run a lot more smoothly, but also be more meaningful. And certainly you're going to engage in significant amounts of prep time for high stakes meetings, whether it's client work, investor work, things that you know have a tremendously important outcome on your business or your work, you're always going to be prepared for. Think about this thus also in terms of lower stakes or seemingly lower stakes meetings. Have your points prepared before you go into a meeting, because it will help you better defend your position. It will help you advocate for your team. It will help you keep the conversation on track when others who think they know what you are trying to say try to divert things. It will help you bring things back together. And if you're like me, who tends to get a little bit defensive when my ideas or thoughts are challenged, this will help you remain calm, remain focused, and take that constructive feedback with a positive attitude and use it to make that project even better. Tools for this: recurring reminders. I prepare an agenda for standing meetings. I have a recurring reminder every Thursday to prepare an agenda for when I meet with my president on Fridays. For those seemingly lower stakes meetings, you can also schedule something on your calendar 15 minutes before the meeting starts so that you can review your talking points and they're fresh and you're ready to go. The next habit is to focus on you. Why do we need to keep our lives structured? Decide what you want to do. Work out, read, call a loved one, start a hobby. But if you don't identify and protect time to do this, how likely is it to actually happen? And this is a great solution if you drop the ball on yourself. So how do we do this? Consider using a structured approach to protecting time, but give yourself flexibility to succeed. So for example, a commitment to work out every day at 6 a.m. for 30 minutes may be really unreasonable. Schedules fluctuate, you might be traveling or going out of town. Sometimes you just don't feel like it. Instead, commit to working out once a day. It doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter for how long, it Doesn't matter what type of workout it is, only that you are carving out time for this activity that you have deemed a priority. When you protect time, you have told yourself and the people in your life that this time is sacrosanct. It is a priority. You are a priority. So make it so by scheduling this time. So the tools for this one, recurring reminders. And I know by now you're completely tired of hearing about it, but these are absolutely critical to make sure that you find time. For example, I'm a Peloton devotee, and every day on my to-do list, I have a recurring reminder that tells me to do something on Peloton. Doesn't matter if I do a 5-minute meditation, a 10-minute stretch, or a 45-minute arms and intervals ride, as long as I do it. The final habit is situational awareness. Now, what does this have to do with finding time, and what is it? So situational awareness is channeling your inner Sherlock Holmes or the power of perception, whatever it is that you need to do to be constantly scanning your environment for clues. And this is important because the more information and details that you observe, catalog, and process, the better and faster you can get things done. So how do you do this? I call it the scan, scrutinize, and synthesize data. So I go into a meeting, whether it's a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting, and I scan, I scope out and see who's there, who's not, who's there that I didn't expect to be there, just getting a lay of the land. And then the scrutinizing comes when I really pay particular attention to each person in the Zoom block, particularly those who can impact either what I'm about to say or the work that I do. Sally looks particularly tired today. Bobby looks really annoyed. John seems to be really excited and peppy. And Christina has the same look on her face she has at all these meetings. If that's the case, then I know that whoever looks really annoyed, that is not the day for me to bring up something controversial that has to do with that individual. It's a way to gauge the politics of a meeting and be able to see what's happening, what am I seeing, taking that all together and saying, this is the time for the meeting, or this is not the time for this particular issue to be raised at a meeting. It will save you an inordinate amount of time, stress, and embarrassment as you start to perfect this habit. The only tools you need are your brain and your powers of perception. It's just like a muscle. You just need to stretch it and exercise it regularly to maintain it. So the strategies we've discussed today, writing everything down, looking ahead 1 to 3 days, preparing for as many meetings as possible, structuring time for yourself with flexibility, and scanning, scrutinizing, and synthesizing your environment will help you amplify any tool, any system, or any process to increase productivity and to find time. How will you spend your time? It's a pleasure to have been with you today, and I thank the folks at 180 Elevate so much for the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you for joining us today and elevating yourself. Charity should begin at home, but should not stay there. At 180 Elevate, it is our honor to support local and global philanthropies which make an impact on the lives of our beautiful children and the world in of itself.
What would this world look like if we all felt cared for? Let's co-create that new paradigm. If you would like to consider joining our philanthropic mission, please consider donating at 180elevate.com. And next is just a glimpse into one of the many philanthropies our organization supports.
The journey of Karuna Thodi Masti Thodi Padhai began last year when the pandemic shook the world and India went into lockdown. It was very important to keep the children safe, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. What better way to do this than to engage the children creatively and make learning fun?
Karuna Thodi Masti Thodi Padhai started as a small initiative, but through the medium of a simple registration form, it grew into a massive network of 600 plus partners. These partners, along with our internal network, helped us reach 12,000 plus communities in 25 plus states. So far, 1,500 plus messages have been shared under the KTMTP series. Each message was carefully curated, contextualized, and disseminated in 10 regional languages along with English.